The Giants did not just finish an A-grade draft. They may have exposed a power struggle inside the building. That is the part nobody is seeing. On the surface, Big Blue should be celebrating. Arvell Reese at number 5. Francis Mauigoa at number 10. Analysts calling this one of the best Giants drafts in years. A home run weekend. Big smiles. Clean headlines. But behind the scenes, the real story is darker. Rumors are now swirling that General Manager Joe Schoen could be fired this week, just days after the draft. And if that is true, this is not about draft grades anymore. This is about control. John Harbaugh is not here to be a passenger. He is here to reshape the New York Football Giants. And this chaos might be the first sign that the takeover has already started. Let's be honest about where things stand. The holes are clear, and the pressure is brutal. The Giants needed stability after the draft. They needed one clean message. They needed the front office, coaching staff, and locker room all pointing in the same direction. Instead, the biggest story is a possible internal fracture. Jackson Dart is the starting quarterback. That means the franchise cannot afford confusion around who is building the roster, who is shaping the offense, and who gets final say on the players around him. The offensive line still needed long-term answers. The skill group still needed dependable structure. The roster still needed depth that can survive a long season. And the front office needed to prove it could build something bigger than a flashy draft weekend. The problem is not that the Giants were aggressive. The problem is that aggression without alignment becomes chaos. When a draft gets strong grades across the league, but the general manager is still rumored to be in danger, that tells you the issue is not only player evaluation. It tells you something deeper might be broken. The fan base can handle bold picks. Giants fans can handle risk. What they cannot handle is another era where the coach wants one thing, the general manager wants another, and ownership waits until the damage is obvious. This is where it gets real. If Harbaugh and Schoen are not fully aligned, the draft did not solve the Giants' identity problem. It revealed it. And that brings us to what just happened. Joe Schoen could reportedly be fired this week. That sentence has real weight because of the timing. Not after a failed draft. Not after a quiet offseason. Not after weeks of public collapse. This rumor is hitting right after a draft that, on the surface, looked like a win. That is the emotional translation. If a general manager can oversee an A-grade draft and still be on the hot seat, then ownership is not just judging the draft board. They are judging power. They are judging trust. They are judging process. They are judging whether Schoen is still the person they want sitting beside John Harbaugh while this franchise gets rebuilt. And I am going to say the uncomfortable part. This does not feel like normal post-draft noise. This feels like a franchise deciding who really owns the football operation. Because if Schoen had complete authority, the story would be simple. He drafted well. He gets praised. The Giants move forward. But if Harbaugh is gaining influence fast, then the draft becomes more complicated. Every pick becomes a clue. Every roster move becomes a signal. Every disagreement becomes part of a bigger question. Who is really driving this thing? The brief calls this unprecedented chaos. I think that is the right word. Because chaos is not just bad headlines. Chaos is when success does not even calm the room down. That is what scares me. The Giants supposedly had a home run draft, and yet the building still feels unstable. That means the grade did not answer the biggest question. It only made the question louder. Is Joe Schoen still the architect, or is John Harbaugh becoming the foundation? And when you look at the first-round decisions, the whole picture starts to click. The Schoen rumor is the headline. The draft class is the evidence. Because if this were only about firing rumors, we could treat it like front office gossip. But once you connect it to the picks, it becomes a football philosophy story. Arvell Reese went at number 5. Francis Mauigoa went at number 10. Here is why that matters emotionally. Those are not quiet, wait-and-see picks. Those are statement picks. Those are top-of-the-draft decisions that tell the league what kind of team the Giants want to become. And if analysts are calling this an A-grade draft, then the outside world sees the talent. But the inside world may be asking a different question. Was this Schoen's draft, or was this Harbaugh's draft? That distinction matters. Harbaugh football has always been about identity, physicality, toughness, and a standard that does not bend just because the room gets uncomfortable. If Reese and Mauigoa fit that vision, then this draft may be less about Schoen saving his job and more about Harbaugh stamping his authority on the roster. That is not a small shift. That is a shift in philosophy. The Giants have spent too long trying to blend half-plans together. A little patience, a little aggression, a little rebuild, a little win now. That is how franchises get stuck. With Jackson Dart already in place as the starting quarterback, the team cannot live in the middle anymore. The G-men need a single direction. And if Harbaugh believes his direction is the only one that matters, then Schoen's seat gets hot even after a good draft. That is the piece that ties everything together. A strong draft does not end a power struggle. Sometimes, it starts the final round. The proof is in the contradiction. The Giants got the praise. They got the A grades. They got the big-name draft excitement. Fans were buzzing after Thursday and Friday. And then the Schoen rumor hit. That tells you this is more than a draft reaction. It is a behind-closed-doors problem breaking into public view. If the organization were aligned, this week would be about Reese, Mauigoa, Dart, and the new direction of Big Blue. Instead, it is about whether the general manager survives. That is not a coincidence. This is the part nobody is talking about. The better the draft looks, the stranger the firing rumors become. And the stranger they become, the more this feels like a control issue. If Harbaugh is consolidating power, this is exactly how it would feel. Loud draft, strong grades, public optimism. Then suddenly, pressure on the general manager. That is not random smoke. That is a franchise being reshaped in real time. Hot take. If Joe Schoen gets fired after an A-grade draft, then John Harbaugh already owns the football direction of this franchise. And I am not backing down from that. My prediction is this. Schoen survives the week, but he loses real power before midseason. That matters because titles can lie. A general manager can keep the job title while the head coach controls the vision. And the player I am putting at the center of this is Jackson Dart. If Dart looks protected, supported, and confident, Harbaugh will get even more control. If Dart looks stuck in another messy Giants experiment, then everybody loses. Schoen, Harbaugh, ownership, all of them. But I believe Harbaugh is going to win this internal battle. If I am wrong, I will come back to this video and own it. But I do not think I am wrong. The Giants are not just deciding whether Schoen stays. They are deciding who gets the keys. Big Blue just had the kind of draft that should bring peace. Instead, it may have triggered a power shift. That is the real story. Not just the A grade. Not just the firing rumor. Not just Harbaugh's first draft. The real story is whether the New York Football Giants finally have one commanding voice, or whether this franchise is about to repeat the same old front office confusion. Giants fans, pick a side. If Harbaugh is making a power grab, is that exactly what this franchise needed, or is this another organizational mess wearing a new suit? No fence sitting. If you are riding with Big Blue through every twist of this rebuild, you know where that subscribe button is. We break down every move, every rumor, and every decision that shapes this team. Go Big Blue.